Hello everyone and welcome to episode 65 of Generation GC, Actual Pain from Generation RX, Good Charlotte's 7th album released in 2018. My name is Molly Huddleston, once again, and as always, I am your host, as well as the producer, creator, and editor of Generation GC. My guest today is Daryna Samoilenko, aka Daryna Samoilenko. Last week, we talked about 40 Ounce Dream from Youth Authority, and next week, we'll be talking about a song from Good Charlotte. Daryna is from Ukraine, Europe, and is studying philology at university. She's also a huge music enthusiast and studied it before she went to university. Over the years, that passion has turned into the meaning of her life. Listening to Good Charlotte, her favorite band, has helped her overcome shyness and build up the courage to start a YouTube channel where she covers songs of a bunch of different bands, including several GC songs. I had so much fun talking to Daryna about her YouTube channel. I love talking to just anyone that's a musician that's been inspired by Good Charlotte. I think that's awesome. And she's also our first guest from Ukraine, which is also super cool. Before we go into the episode, I did want to give a trigger warning that this episode does discuss mental illness and addiction as it relates to the song Actual Pain. If you're familiar with the song, that probably does not come as a surprise. There's nothing graphic discussed in this episode. We don't, mention anything like specific, but it does relate closely to the content of the song, just how those conditions can impact how we relate to each other. So I wanted to give a heads up. And hey, if you need to turn off this episode and catch up with us next week, that's okay. Episode 66 is going to be a little lighter. In terms of resources, I'll put these in the show notes, but if you are in the U.S. and you are struggling with depression or thoughts of suicide, you can call 1-800-273-TALK, that's 1-800-273-8255, or text HOME to 741-741 for crisis text line. In Canada, you can call the Crisis Assistance Hotline, 833-456-4566. And if you're struggling with substance abuse, you can call the SAMHSA hotline, 1-800-662-4357. I'm also going to recommend visiting twloha.com. That's To Write Love in Her Arms, their website, and clicking the Find Help button. They'll help you find resources in your area. You deserve help. You deserve mental wellness. You deserve care. I also wanted to say that I love having guests from all around the world and from all different backgrounds. As I've already said, Daryna is our first guest from Ukraine, and I just want everyone listening to the show to feel represented. If English isn't your first language, that's okay. As long as you're comfortable holding a conversation in English, you're good to go. And I really just want to make sure people of all different backgrounds are represented on the show. And that doesn't just mean location or ethnicity. That's also ensuring a very gender and sexuality representation. I know there's been a handful of LGBT folks on the show, and I want to remind everyone that this is a place, I want you to feel represented. I want you to feel comfortable. I want to represent fans of different ages, fans with their own life experiences of any sort. If you're listening to this show, whoever you are, wherever you're from, I want you to feel like someone like me has been on this show. And if you're listening and someone like you hasn't been on the show, hey, reach out to me and maybe you can come on the show. I also want to continue mentioning blacklivesmatters.carj.co, antisemitism.carj.co, and anti-Asian-violence-resources.carj.co. Educating ourselves is extremely important, as well as getting involved. As a white person, I definitely have a lot of privilege in this country, but I think it's important to speak out and to continue mentioning that, because Black people are being killed by police every day, and that's completely unacceptable. Finally, Generation GC stickers are here. If you do want a sticker, there's two things you can do. Number one, you can support the show on Anchor. Go to anchor.fm/generationgcpod and click support. And all that money that comes into the show just helps me make the show the best that it can be. Helps me buy equipment like microphone cables, helps me buy headphones, laptop stands, and it helps me print and ship the stickers. Number two, you can make a charitable donation. Go to blacklivesmatters.carj.co. Any of the organizations listed there, make a donation. Whatever you're able to give, just the gesture of giving is what I think matters to me more than how much you're able to give. And then you're going to take a screenshot of either your support of the show on Anchor or your charitable donation, and you're going to send that to me along with your mailing address, and I will send you stickers. And you can reach out to me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Generation GC Pod, POD, or send me an email, generationgcpod@gmail.com. Well, that's about it for our intro, and now on to episode 65.
So, Actual Pain is track 4 on Generation RX, which is Good Charlotte's 7th studio album released in 2018. Track 3 is Shadowboxer, and track 5 is Prayers, also both singles. And this was the first song to be released from the album in late May 2018. I don't believe it really charted, though. It didn't really get a lot of radio play, but it did have a music video as well as a live video. So we'll talk about both of those. And this has been played live a fair bit. So setlist.fm says that they played it 20 times. It kind of seems, from what I noticed going over it, it seems like they didn't really play it on the US Generation RX tour, but they played it a bunch in Europe. First time they played it was Slam Dunk in the UK. But that kind of makes me a little mad because I love this song and I would love to hear it live, and I would love for them to play it in the US. But I don't know, maybe they just do that so that people from the US will fly overseas to see the songs they don't play here. And we have a lot to talk about with this song. There's just a lot of subject matter and everything. But Daryna, first, I want to help our guests get to know you. So the first question that I like to ask everyone is, when did you first hear Good Charlotte, and what were your first thoughts on them?
So I'm actually a fairly new fan, which is fun because what I love about Good Charlotte, I'm fairly young. I'm only 18 years old. And what I love about this band and always loved is that they have a very varied in generations. The fan base consists of so many generations. Like there are such young people as me, and then there are people who are older than the members of Good Charlotte.
Yeah.
But the first time I heard Good Charlotte was about 2018, maybe late 2018.
Oh, so you're definitely a very new fan. Awesome.
Yes. But I actually started listening to them, like, I think in 2019. I definitely remember how I accidentally ran into them via Jeff Winnington's Instagram. I remember seeing him posting about how they water park starred in Makeshift Love music video. So I think that was like the first song of Good Charlotte that I've ever heard. And I remember loving them for their like punk rock style, which is something that I've always loved since my childhood. Like I've always loved bands like The Offspring, Paramore, and with Good Charlotte it was something that I could relate to a lot.
So it seems like you were into a lot of similar kind of bands. I mean, you mentioned Paramore, Jeff from Water Parks, just happened to kind of come across Good Charlotte. Yes. Recently.
I think it was very natural for me because I'd already been a huge fan of All Time Low and big friends with Charlotte. So, and seeing them, being friends with them actually helped me to get into Good Charlotte so much. And to the point where Good Charlotte became my favorite band. I think All Time Low is on the second place now.
Wow, that's impressive. I like that though. I also like to ask everyone, have you ever seen Good Charlotte live?
No, I haven't because I live in Ukraine and I had to Google it actually, but I found out that they never play it here.
Yeah, I was wondering about that.
And I think that the last show they played live was before I got into them so much that I would want to come to their show.
Right. Yeah, I guess
it's a bummer.
Generation RX, they probably would have been touring like I know they toured in Europe like 2018, 2019, but so you'd probably would you have to go to like another country if you wanted to see them probably?
I would most definitely do that. I've already done that with bands that I like. So as soon as the whole pandemic situation ends and they announce a Europe tour, no questions asked, I will definitely buy a ticket no matter what.
Where would you go? Like, what would be the most, I mean, obviously it depends, like, where they're playing, but, like, in terms of, I guess, kind of the major cities that bands tend to hit in Europe, what would be, like, where would you usually travel to for a concert?
Realistically, I think that maybe Warsaw in Poland, but I would definitely love to go to Berlin. I've already been there, and I love that city so much.
Berlin's
it's so
awesome.
beautiful.
Yeah.
I would love to come back.
It's a very punk rock kind of city, and Jen Evans, who came on the show to talk about March On, saw Good Charlotte in Berlin.
Wow.
And I was like, that is perfect. And I remember she told me, she was like, yeah, I was really pleased at how, like, you know, me having blue hair made me really fit in there. I was like, that's so awesome. So growing up in Ukraine, like, what music was popular? Like, are people listening to artists from Ukraine? Are they listening to artists from, like, America mostly?
Like, as I grew up, I didn't really pay attention to what other kids listened to. I just remember being at school and them putting on some music, and it was usually like some Ukrainian or Russian pop music and rap. But I remember not liking that stuff, and I was like the only person that listened to rock music, I think, as a child. But then again, my best friend, I know that she listens to foreign music. She listens to Fall Out Boy, which was a great surprise for me. So we listen to all kinds of stuff here, I think.
Awesome. Well, you also have a music career of your own. So you have a YouTube channel and you're doing guitar covers of, seems like all your favorite bands pretty much. So can you tell me a little bit about like how you started this channel?
Yeah, okay, sure. So I have always wanted to have a music career. And I actually had a lot of stuff planned for 2020, but then coronavirus happened, and pretty much everything that I was planning to do, it had to be cancelled. But then I remembered that member of one of my other favorite bands, Perry Walters from As It Is, he used to have a YouTube channel, and it really inspired me. And then in summer, I found out that Billy Martin, he streams music on his Twitch channel, and I loved watching those streams so much that I was like, why I can't do something like that? So I started to, I had already been doing covers, and I just thought that maybe I could do that publicly, and so it was just a natural thing.
That's awesome.
And I love this channel so much because it has been evolving ever since. Like every new cover that I've done, it's been bigger and bigger, and I love that.
So you've done, I think some All-Time Low, a lot of Good Charlotte. Yes. I was really happy to see the last December cover because obviously nobody's heard that live yet. So I was like, all right, this is pretty cool. I also really liked your covers of Makeshift Love and Sex on the Radio because, you know, you played with a very distorted guitar, which just made these songs, which are both very pop songs, it made them feel very punk rock. So I guess this is like two questions in one for you, but how do you decide which songs to cover? And how do you learn the songs? Like, are you looking up tabs? Or are you just kind of playing by ear? Like, how do you learn the parts?
I love both of those questions because, I finished music school. I studied at music school since I was 11 till I was almost 17.
Wow.
I got classical music training. I studied flute there. And I taught myself to play the guitar. And the reason why there's so much Good Charlotte covers out there is because when I started to listen to Good Charlotte, I was really inspired by Billy, the way he plays live. He just has so much energy, and I just started to looking at the way he plays. And I started to try to copy it in a way. But how I pick my covers, I usually cover the songs that I like. I always do that. But surprisingly, those songs that I choose, they're quite big, I think, except for a few, like Mountain. I think it's not that popular. But most of those songs that I've picked, they are quite popular, and I see the results. Many people tend to listen to songs that are more popular, like Take On Me by A-ha. It's my most viewed video. It has almost 1,000 views, which was a huge surprise for me.
Yeah.
When I learn songs, I usually look up tabs. I mean, I used to look up tabs a lot, but I recently figured out that it's so much more fun to learn by ear.
Yeah.
And that just lets me give a song my own vision. That's exactly what happened with Makeshift Love and Sex on the Radio. Though I kind of think that Makeshift Love is a punk rock song. I remember watching that live from Brixton, where one of the twins himself said that it's a pop punk song.
Good point. Yeah, I think I think it definitely is. And I think when I say it's a very pop song, it's very catchy. It's very kind of upbeat, but definitely the tone of the song. When I had Maria Sherman on to talk about Makeshift Love, we were there really is a lot of commentary and kind of sarcasm, jokiness in Makeshift Love, which really does make it very punk.
Yeah. And what I love about that song is how poppy and sweet the intro sounds, and the bridge and the pre-chorus, and then we have the verses with all those distorted guitars.
Yeah.
And it goes from light to heavy, and it's amazing.
The contrast, yeah.
Yes, and not many bands have managed to pull that off successfully, but Good Charlotte do that on every record. There's at least one song where they do it, and it's amazing.
So, are there any other Good Charlotte covers? So we're recording this about 6 weeks before the episode is going to come out. So are there any other covers that you have in the works that you might want to mention that might be up by the time people are hearing this, or that are coming soon?
Of course there are. I mean, I've tweeted the other day that the new cover is coming up on April 2nd.
Awesome.
Which is a Good Charlotte cover, and they wanted to make it for Good Charlotte anyways, but then it turned out that it's actually on April 1st. But I live in Europe.
Yes, you're the second person I've had that conversation with, I think.
So the cover I'm planning to release on April 2nd, it's actually 2 videos. So I'm a huge fan of demo versions of songs. And my favorite song with the demo version is the anthem.
Oh, the demo of that is so good.
And that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to post both versions. I'm going to post a video with the demo lyrics and with the official lyrics.
Oh, that's awesome. What a great idea.
Thank you. I'm also working on the cover of Actual Pain, which is the cover I'm going to release right after you release this episode. And I also love my cover of Mountain, which I released in mid-autumn. But I didn't have much time back then to make a full band cover, and so now I want to turn it into a full band cover. So maybe I will release it around this time. There's also a song called Where Would We Be Now?
Yeah.
Which is actually the song I was going to release instead of The River. Actually, fun fact is that there were so many songs that could have been released instead of The River, like Keep Your Hands Off My Girl was the very original plan. I had the full cover recorded, but then something went wrong. Then I was considering Where Would We Be Now, but I didn't have enough time to make it. And now I've learned this song, and I think that maybe I will release it, but I will make it totally different, like I want to remove all guitars from it, maybe. I want to add flute on a Good Charlotte song, and I think that maybe Actual Pain...
Ghost of You would have flute.
Well, actually, that's an interesting idea. I've never considered covering Ghost of You, but I think with the flute, with all those electronic sounds...
Yeah. Actual Pain, that would sound awesome.
It could work so well if I managed to pull that off. And I'm working on it because I've arranged Actual Pain a while ago, and I still have no idea how to make it, because it's such a deep song. Like, there are so many layers to it. Yeah. And I'm trying to make everything sound well, and it's really hard.
Yeah. Well, I can't wait to hear how it turns out. And, of course, I'll be promoting that one and sharing it. And I think definitely when this goes up, I'll share like a couple. I'll share a couple on Twitter, and obviously be directing everyone to your YouTube channel. And we have a lot to talk about with Actual Pain, but just one last question before we get into the song is, what would you say is like your biggest goal with your music career? Like, do you see yourself making the YouTube channel the biggest it can be? Is it more about you eventually want to play live? Do you want to make records?
I mean, obviously the channel started as a result of me wanting to have a music career, but before I came up with the idea for the channel, I've wanted to make my own music.
Sure.
I just need to like build a following maybe for that first. But of course, for every young musician out there, one of their biggest goals is probably getting their music out there, making it big. And Good Charlotte showed me that anyone with any background could do anything if they work hard enough. So that's what I'm going to do.
No, absolutely. They're a good role model, inspiration for that. Well, Daryna, I really want to talk about Actual Pain. So we connected on Twitter a couple months ago, and I'm so happy you wanted to talk about this because, as I think I already mentioned, I love this song. It's one of my favorites from the record. So why did you want to talk about Actual Pain?
So Actual Pain was the first song of Generation RX that I've heard. Mm-hmm. And I relate to it on a personal level. Like this song has so many meanings. Like I managed to interpret it in several ways. And I can relate to pretty much everything that I've dug up.
Yeah.
So, and I also love the way it sounds, like all those instrumental parts, the echoes and everything. I just really love that song.
Yeah. The instrumentals, the like strings, which, you know, I reference Chronicles of Life and Death a lot when I talk about this album because Chronicles also had a lot of strings. But the strings combined with some electro elements make it feel very dark.
Yeah.
Just very, very expressive, I think.
And it definitely adds this vibe. Like I've read that they were trying to make that record sound like their older releases, and somehow those electronic parts they draw back to Good Morning Revival, and the strings with the Chronicles of Life and Death, as you said. And that sounds awesome. And at the same time, this is somehow a very independent and a very Generation RX song. Like this album has its own vibe, and this song just perfectly represents it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like taking elements of what they've done before, but also creating like a very new and unique vibe. So I want to talk about what the song means. So I guess first I want to hear what you think this song is about, like your interpretation. Then I'll share what I think it's about. And then after that, we can dive into what the band has said in backstory and interviews.
So in my opinion, it's the story of a young person, like maybe a child whose parents struggle with maybe not addiction, but mental issues, something like that. But at the same time, it could be a story told by the parents themselves, who have struggles and keep hurting people around them. It doesn't really have to be a relationship between the parents and the children. It could be a relationship between friends. Yeah. It could be a romantic relationship, anything like that, where someone is struggling and the other one is hurt.
Yeah, I think I will say I did not get a direct vibe that this is definitely about addiction from this song. My personal interpretation is kind of, I think, sort of similar to what you said, although slightly different. Just like what I take from the song is that the narrator, you know, they feel betrayed by someone who's let them down over and over again, but you also kind of know that they don't mean to, that they're struggling with something that they can't really control, right? Whatever that is, but something about how painful it is, like that lets you know it was real. And that could be like a parent-child, that could be like a, you know, an on and off romantic relationship, that could be friends, it could be, you know, gaslighting or something. But I think it's just, I feel like in situations where you know that someone is struggling with a lot mentally, whatever that is, whether that's like depression or an eating disorder, or if it is addiction, like you don't want to blame them, but also sometimes they can hurt you as a result of what they're struggling with. And it's just hard to watch anyone you love going through that. But it is painful, right? Sometimes to see that happen. I referenced, and I'll preface this by saying that, you know, I have very complicated feelings about the Harry Potter series in light of, frankly, how terrible J.K. Rowling has revealed herself to be in recent years.
Yeah, I remember that.
And that's kind of made me look back at the series in some ways in a not so great light. But I will say that, you know, there's one line in the final book, and I guess this is technically a spoiler, but whatever, the book's been out for like 14 years at this point. Yeah. It's the King's Cross scene in the final book where Harry Potter meets Dumbledore, essentially. And Harry is just like, is this all happening inside my head or is it real? And Dumbledore says, of course it's happening inside your head, but why should that mean it's not real?
Yeah, because maybe all the pain, you think it's only in your head, but at the same time, it gets out. Like, people see it, it gets getting out. But sometimes they see it way too late. Yeah.
I want to talk about the kind of lead up to this song. So I did put in my notes, and this is like so funny. This is so funny to me, like looking back and reading over this article when they were teasing it. So they shared album art from Kenny G, Garth Brooks, Celine Dion. And I think in my article I said, oh, it's like a covers EP, even though that would be like a very odd collection of covers, right? And then when it was, you know, when the song was released and the album was announced, I was like, okay, maybe they're just hinting at a bunch of people who died of overdoses. None of those people died of overdoses. Or maybe they're hinting at people who experienced addiction, but I don't know. Like, I don't think necessarily Kenny G, Garth Brooks, and Celine Dion struggle with addiction. I mean, maybe, but do you have any thoughts on like why they might have shared the pictures they did?
I mean, maybe they knew something that we don't. Like maybe
yeah.
Or maybe they just hinted at them because they're celebrities and they're famous. As we reading other articles and then talking about the song, they say that celebrities struggle with pains and they just don't talk about it, that maybe they were hinting at the fact that celebrities are also struggling.
That's a good point. It's not just, you know, and so even like on the Genius interpretation, they mention Lil Peep and how they were so affected by Lil Peep, who was a huge Good Charlotte fan, and who died of an overdose after, you know, a lot of struggles. And Benji and Joel said, throughout this century, we've seen the whole opioid crisis get worse. We wondered if we were really doing our part. We wanted to get back out there on the battlefield and spread insight, share experience, and give anything we could to improve lives. But so I think it's like, if you take that statement one way, it could be like, oh, it's definitely like just and only about addiction. But I think what you said is important, that it's just showing that like everyone struggles. Celebrities do struggle with mental health and eating disorders and body image and, you know, all kinds of stuff.
I kind of feel like maybe celebrities struggle even more than normal people that aren't famous, because there's so much pressure put on them that they're just people like us. They have normal struggles like us, but the pressure that is put on them because they have an image to maintain, like a reputation, and it's just too hard for them sometimes. Like, I feel like that's a lot for them.
I even I don't know if you watch reality TV at all, but I love reality TV. But I even think about reality TV is kind of an extreme example of a celebrity who has their life kind of broadcast in tabloids, right? But, when I post something on Twitter, when you post something on Twitter, when I make an Instagram story, I am choosing what to put out in the world and choosing to share what people think of me. But if you're a celebrity and the paparazzi takes a picture of you, leaving the gym, and you're, in sweatpants and you look kind of schlubby. Or if you're on reality TV, on a dating show, they'll edit you in a certain way, right? So it's, I can't even imagine not really getting to choose how the world sees you and what kind of effect that would have on your psyche.
And I actually think that's why, Billy doesn't do that, but most of the Charlotte members, they are so quiet on social media. They don't share pretty much anything.
Yeah.
I think that's maybe one of the reasons why they don't want to share.
And they don't have to, I mean, Benji has a daughter, but I don't think he's ever posted a picture of her. And
yes,
I
exactly.
understand that. Frankly, I can't imagine if my parents were showing my baby pictures to the internet, right? Joel will post some pictures, but I feel like Joel, if he's posting pictures of his family, it's happy Mother's Day, happy birthday, whatever. And Joel also posts a lot of pictures of his dogs.
Yeah, I love watching the pictures of his dogs.
I love watching pictures of his dogs. Very cute German Shepherds. But yeah, that's a good point. But also, okay, Billy is pretty active on Twitter, but Billy's talking about his loops and his production and his guitar stuff. You know what I mean? Benji and Joel are posting Joel is really active. He'll post about Veep stuff, and Benji's posting about all the bands they're working with. So I feel like there's a difference also between posting about your life, right, and your work, I guess.
I mean, Billy does tweet sometimes about what he's doing apart from music.
True, that's true, yeah.
But he also doesn't give any insights. They all keep separated from, they keep in their private lives to their own.
And as they should, and as they have the right to, no one is obligated to broadcast their personal life, ever.
There's a band, there are some people that are very famous, who I follow on Instagram and Twitter, and they constantly posting about how they're having fun, everything they do, they're posting it. But still fine for me, but I think that maybe if you want to, it's up to you.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, some people, I post sometimes about my life, but it's generally, what I post on Twitter, it's a lot of stuff about podcast stuff or I just knitted this thing, right? I don't tend to post much about I hung out with this person today. Because I'm that's not I don't feel like the world necessarily needs to know that. But some people do, and I also get that. I don't know. I feel like there's not a right or wrong way per se to go about that. But
I mean, I'm a teenager, so when I'm hanging out with my friends, I used to post a lot about that when I was 15 or younger, but now I just don't feel like it. Though I love complaining about university on Twitter, you probably noticed that.
Yeah.
But I'm complaining in a good way. I love being a university student.
Yeah, I left college, but I definitely complained about it a lot. Twitter and Facebook. I want to go back to an interview that Billy actually did for a website called Lucy Sky Press, which is a great name for a website, by the way. I imagine it's a reference to Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. But the interviewer is just asking about the themes on the album and how they say there are many themes focused on in this album, and the title centers around the opioid and prescription drug crisis. But what are some of the other themes that went into this album that might not be as obvious? And Billy mentions actual pain and talks about how pretty much everyone suffers with depression and mental health. And he says that we've all suffered with that stuff. I think if you're a musician or you're an artist, you are an emotional person and you love doing that stuff because you've got to get out of your head somehow. I know we all struggle with a ton of stuff in different ways, and we have different ways that we like to cope to it. Music definitely being one way. And I think talking about it is a good thing because there are so many young people out there who do get inside their head. You go to these dark places and you think, oh, I'm the only one who thinks like this, and everybody else's life is so perfect. Why is my life not like this? But that's not the truth. Even because you're a successful rock star and you make money doing what you love, everybody thinks life is good. That's not the truth. Everybody deals with real life issues. He says, you see a lot of musicians turn to drug, and the next thing you know, they're not here anymore. That mental health and depression goes along with the opioid crisis. It's all tied together, and it's a real thing that a lot of people, young and old, struggle with in this world, and you see a ton of it in the music industry. Which I thought was a really good point, because I'm glad he tied it together, which as you've been saying, and you pointed out really well, that it really is all tied together, I think.
Yeah, it definitely is. I mean, I know that there are so many musicians that have gone through addictions, but they survived, but many of them haven't. Yeah. And
there's an interview that we've referenced before. I don't think I linked it in our notes here, but it's an interview the twins did with NPR. And they basically talked about how they were like, yeah, we made a pact together when we were younger that we would always be there for each other. And it was just by having each other and the grace of God that, that we were able to make it through. But not everyone does, Billy goes back to Lil Peep, and they talked about, doing the cover of Awful Things, and that his family were really touched. And he said, it's cool to be able to do stuff like that, but at some point you're like, that's all you can do. He's never going to know. After the fact, it seems hard to do stuff like that, but that's life and that's reality. But he said that I think it also helps the fans to see the outpouring of respect from peers and other people in the industry give love to someone who lots of people look up to.
I mean, I think it's really awesome that they did that, though it's really sad, but they did that, and it showed that he mattered to them. Like, that's what you do when you lose someone that matters to you. You try to pay tribute to them. Like, when Chester Bennington died, I remember so many musicians paid tribute to him. And now, still, every time someone that's famous or was just a huge fan of the band, I've seen so many stories, so many moving stories about how musicians and families, they come together to pay tribute.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I mean, it's like, I feel like I'm sure this was what the band wanted, that I would love for all those people to know how loved and appreciated they are before it's too late. But, that's all. At the same time, that, knowing you're loved is not going to save someone in itself, right? Like, oh, all these people love me. Like, if someone's at crisis, they're at crisis and they need professional help of whatever kind of intervention. But
at the same time, it's really helpful to feel that you're not alone in your struggles.
Oh, completely. And that's why I think it's important to talk about it, whether that's like sharing, oh, this is how I felt today, or that's writing a song about it, or, doing whatever you're going to do.
Yeah, like I remember listening to Hold On for the first time, and I immediately knew what the song was about, and then I read about it, and it touched me so much that they wrote a song directed specifically to the fans.
Yeah.
About the suicide struggles, And not only with suicide, like maybe also mental struggles or addictions.
Definitely.
Or
Yeah.
whatever struggles people may have. Like, and Good Charlotte were straight up saying that you are not alone in your struggles and we are there for you if no one is. And it's such a great move from them.
It's a great move from them. And I think it's like, you know, they talk about in this interview, there's this interview with Independent, where the twins are talking about how all the issues are intertwined: mental health, opioid crisis, prison overpopulation. You know, frankly, I'm sure a lot of people in prison are struggling with their mental health, right? Like, and he said, it's easy for someone anywhere in the world to look at me, this is Joel, and go, easy for you to say, you don't know what it's like to struggle, it's easy for you to question. But he also says we wouldn't have been on a single magazine cover if it wasn't for the kids who made us important. So I think that's a really good point. It's like kind of full circle, right? That it's like they definitely recognize that the kids who are paying attention, the kids that they wrote Hold On for, are the ones who got them the attention, the success, right?
Yeah. And writing songs like Actual Pain or Self-Help or other similar songs from the Generation RX, and I'm sure that they will keep writing such songs. It's just, I feel like those songs are maybe directed to a newer generation, like my generation, for example, Gen Z. Because obviously we weren't there when Hold On was released. Like, I was born in 2002, just a few months before The Young and the Hopeless was released.
Well, you were there, but you were very small.
Yes. That's actually why I put Young and Hopeless into my Twitter biography.
I think you're the youngest person I've had on the show, by the way. Which makes it makes me happy because, like, part of my thing, you know, I want to have like all different kinds of people just represented. And you're also, you know, first person from Ukraine, but not first person from Europe. But I remember, like, when I started this show, I was like, I really want to have someone who's like a newer Good Charlotte fan come on the show.
And I'm one of those.
Yes, I that makes me so happy. I love it.
Thank you.
Welcome.
And so I think that I'm continuing what I was. So I think that the younger fans that weren't there for Hold On, they're definitely here for Self-Help and Actual Pain. Like, Good Charlotte keeps saving lives. They keep saving lives of the newer generations. Yeah.
They definitely do. And it's like, I mean, when I interviewed Billy right before this album came out, he talked about how, like, with Youth Authority, like, they made a bunch of high energy songs, and that wasn't really an album that got, like, serious in the same way. But for this album, they really wanted to, like, reach and connect with, you know, the fans who would come up to them at meet and greets, or who would talk to them after shows, who would send them letters. And I think they definitely did.
Yeah, I remember, like, watching those old videos of them. Like, there's a whole channel dedicated to their old videos from tours. And I remember watching, I think it was Bamboozle Road Show from 2010.
Yeah.
And how, I think someone spoke about how they just really love receiving those letters. And they have spoken about it so many times, and I just think that maybe Good Charlotte are some of the nicest people and some of the most genuine people out there.
Yeah.
At least they act so.
I mean, there's a lot you can, you know, say about them, sure, negatively, but I don't think anyone could say they're not genuine and authentic, right?
And you know, what I also like about them is that most bands, they say that we did not save your life, like, you found the strength to keep moving on. But Good Charlotte aren't one of those. They know that they helped people. Like, I mean, obviously you found the strength to move on yourself.
But the music gave you that courage, I think.
Exactly. Yeah. Yes, that's my thoughts. Exactly.
Which it's definitely like, I can only just vaguely imagine like the kind of responsibility that must feel like, you know, when if someone were to be like, oh yeah, your music gave me the courage to, you know, go ask for help or see a therapist or whatever you need to do. Like that, I feel like that would feel like a big responsibility, but an honor, I would imagine.
I think it's rather an honor because I would definitely, if anyone came up to me and said, "Hey, your music saved my life," or something like, "You helped me get through my struggles," like. Yeah. That would have been such a great honor for me, honestly.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe responsibility, but in which way?
I've definitely gotten like a couple. I've gotten a bunch of really, really sweet messages about the podcast and people saying that it has helped them just feel connected and stuff during the lockdown, which makes me so happy because it has really made me feel connected too, right?
I mean, what actually I love about your podcast is that it actually connects the GC fam together.
Yeah.
Like, I got into GC fam because of your podcast.
Oh, I'm so happy. Yeah, I mean, you and I never would have talked, right? Like, I never would have found GC fam in, like, Argentina or, you know, or England or Germany or from Australia, you know? But it's been very cool. I definitely like it's like I think because I've been in music journalism and stuff for a decade now. And this is like the most niche kind of thing I've ever done. But I think the power of that is like, oh, people actually get into it. Like they actually are following what I'm doing, right? Which is very cool.
Yeah, because now the community of GCFams seems to be very tight. Like, I did not even know that GCFam exists before I found out about your podcast.
Yeah.
I really didn't, because I always stay away from, like, fandoms and stuff. But with GCFam, it sort of felt like I found a clique to call my own.
Yeah. I love that reference. Yeah. No, it's a good feeling. And it's like, I definitely feel like I've found the GC fam very much for myself. And have really like actually built like a lot of connections and stuff, which is very cool. Do you have any memories or stories that you want to share about Actual Pain?
Like, as I've said before, I can relate to that song so much, and I relate to it on a personal level. Because, I mean, I have my own struggles. My parents have their own struggles, and as a child, their struggles affected me a lot. And now I found myself on the other side of the song, like, where my own struggles, they result in me hurting other people, and I don't always realize that until the damage is done.
Yeah. That's a good point. That it definitely takes a lot of self-awareness and kind of like willing to look at yourself and how you've acted. When I think of this song, like it definitely came out at exactly the right time for me. But I definitely, I was not in like a super, like emotionally just was not in a super great place, most of 2018 due to just, a situation that was going on. And the line, all this pain I feel that's tearing me apart is what makes you real deep inside my heart. And that definitely, like, that just resonated with me. And I was like, I get it. I got this. This is going to get me through. And definitely like helped me get the courage to like, remove myself from situations that weren't working, which was a very good thing.
Yeah, I totally get what you feel. And with songs like this one, I've had struggles for years now. I mean, I had some bad experiences as a child, and well, when I grew up, I finally started to accept that, like, it's okay not to be okay. Like, and my struggles are not alone in this world who has them. Like, and songs that are written about it, they definitely connect other people together.
Definitely. Definitely. And I like that you said it's okay not to be okay. And I'll definitely be putting like some kind of resources, like I always try to do when we have like a serious conversation. I'll be putting some resources for sure for like how people can find help in the intro and the show notes for this. I like to talk about what other songs the track relates to or how it fits. I guess Self-Help and Shadowboxer are kind of like the obvious ones for me on this one in terms of like thinking about how the way you see yourself kind of affects how you move through the world. Did you have any other thoughts?
Yeah, I actually have a few. I had to actually look through Good Charlotte's whole discography, but I found some interesting ones.
Yeah.
So I think that it's kind of similar to War.
Oh, definitely.
And not just because of the lyrics and the problem behind them. Like, it's also, I think, about a child that's struggling with their parents. And what I loved about it, especially when I watched the video for the first time I saw the music video for War was after I saw the video to Actual Pain for the first time. And I recognized that boy. It's the same boy that starred in Actual Pain. He starred in War. And then I read the interview that you sent to me. And I found out that it's the director's son, actually.
Yes. Yeah.
It was really cool.
Well, let's talk about the music video for Actual Pain.
Mm-hmm.
So it's directed by Jake Stark, who I would just love to do an interview with because, like, he did all the music videos for this album, and I feel like he kind of tied it all together visually very well.
Yeah, I love the transitions between, like, Shadowboxer, Self-Help, and Actual Pain, and then Prayers also. It's such a great visual work.
Yeah. So basically, it opens up with, you know, a man finding, like, a box, like a moving box, right? And you kind of see two alternate scenes throughout, which are the band playing in a house, and you see that skull imagery flashing. And then essentially in the same house are a mother and son, you know, playing, spending time together, all well and good until he finds her, like, passed out, lying on the bed. She's yelling at him. The video, you know, it kind of ends with the man trying to burn a photo of, I assume, I take it that it's like, this is the kid grown up.
I think so too, actually. I've always thought that it's the kid himself.
Yeah, so it ends with him trying to burn a photo of, like, him and his mom. And then the younger version of himself, I guess, kind of stops him. It got shout-outs. I mean, Rolling Stone, Billboard, Rock Sound, Kerrang! Everyone was writing about this video. What are your thoughts on the video?
I mean, the video obviously is very moving. I think that especially the middle part where the child and his mother, who used to be so close, now they're not.
Yeah.
And when the bridge comes on the lines where I fought so hard, still I feel like I'm in chains, like, that part has always brought me to tears because it's just so sad how the boy is trying to just be nice to his mom, and she's like, no, I don't want you around. Like, this is so upsetting and so painful.
I can't even imagine, like, how that would, like, affect a child, because, like, you know, you at 18 and me at 29, I think we could say, okay, maybe it's not his fault and it's not the mom's fault. She's not intentional. Like, addiction is a disease. But if you're a child and that's your parent that is acting like that and treating you like that, I mean, of course that's gonna leave a mark.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's why so many children that have grown up with parents who have addictions or mental struggles, they in turn result in having similar struggles, even if they don't want to. But all those painful experiences that they had in their childhood, their result, they have an effect on them.
I mean, it's like I would guess there might be like a genetic component to like addictive tendencies, like how likely someone is to get addicted to something. But also just like you mentioned, the social aspects of like how you were raised and what kind of coping mechanisms that you have, what kind of support system that you have, definitely would affect how people, I think grow up and move through the world. Billy, in that same interview with Lucy Sky Press, Billy is talking about how, there's a lot of autobiographical stuff in the lyrics and the videos. I think sometimes it's obviously magnetized to be a little on a bigger scale than what you're dealing with, understandable. Sometimes you have to like kind of drum things up, I guess, to make it work visually. But yeah, he said that Jake really understands the band. We work with him all the time and he knows where we're coming from. So that's where the concept came from on that one. Yeah, I really want to like have Jake Stark on this podcast because he would like, I'm like, you really like, I feel like in the past, Good Charlotte had not always been super like visually kind of cohesive. Like they would do all these great videos, but they didn't always fit together for like an album. But Jake Stark really kind of like made everything
all those videos together.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love such transitions. Like I've seen similar things in other bands, for example, All Time Low on their Last Young Renegade, where the 4 songs are also connected through symbolism and stuff. I love that.
Speaking of All Time Low, not to like totally derail, but I love that they finally released a song with All Time Low in the lyrics.
Yeah, I loved Once in a Lifetime. Like,
so good.
It was released when I was at the class at university. Like, I was having an online class and I knew that they were putting out a song during that time. So I was like, okay, I answered a question from the teacher and I was like, okay, I'll just mute my audio.
Mute it, yeah.
And I did. I listened to the song.
So good.
And I listened to it so much. I listened to it like 100 times. And I released a cover of it in just the next few hours. Like my class ended and I was like immediately, okay, I watched this on my channel.
So you're not even paying attention in the second half of class. It's like, all right, how am I gonna do this cover?
No, I mean, what I like about myself, I'm always trying to be the first one to answer. And coincidentally, I only had to answer one time at that class. So I had enough time. Well, I actually wasn't working on the cover at the time because I'm trying to be a diligent student. But right after it ended, I was like, no, nothing is happening today. I'm making a cover.
I love that. There's also a live video of Actual Pain, and I think it's just like a tour montage from like 2016, 2017, I'm guessing. But it was released June of 2018, so I guess kind of leading up to the album as they're like just getting some buzz for the fall tour. Doesn't really have like a plot line or anything. It's just like, okay, here's like live footage. I
mean, I love watching their live videos. Oh, yeah. Live can get much better. Keep Swinging with Callan Quinn.
Keep Swinging. The Keep Swinging video is really good.
Yeah, and how they put Sleeping with Sirens there. I love Sleeping with Sirens.
Yeah.
And Callan's voice sounds so different on that song to what Sleeping with Sirens usually sound like.
My friend Jesse is a TikToker. He has like a really big following on TikTok, like 100,000 people or something crazy. Wow. All like pop punk and emo music. And he just like yesterday or something just did a TikTok of like 5 songs that Callan Quinn sings on that you might not know. And one of them was Keep Swinging. But he's like playing clips of all these Callan Quinn songs, all these songs that Callan is singing on. I'm like, oh, wow. Like his voice, like Callan definitely has a very like distinct voice and he can sing really high. Like he hits high notes like no one else, but he also like it sounds very different in different songs, and it like works in so many different styles.
Like he successfully manages to pull off like a heavy song like If I'm James Dean, You're Audrey Hepburn, but at the same time you have Madness, the whole album of like Go 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 and Gossip is follow up, like it's practically a pop album.
Yeah.
And he still manages to pull that off. And then when you hear How It Feels to Be Lost, you can't even believe that those two are just were released in 2 years difference.
Yeah. No, it's crazy. I have a hard time picking a favorite Sleeping with Sirens album for that reason, because they're all so different.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I want to talk about some reviews that mention Actual Pain. So When the Horn Blows, they had this review was just like super detailed. It was really well said. They said the themes behind the songs may be shared, but each song is distinct in its own way. Actual Pain, the title of which refers to the refusal of many to address their own mental health and the idea that mental health is a genuine thing. It's about a relationship in which both partners are haunted by the same dark cloud of negativity, being torn apart, giving each other their hearts, but the darkness still remains. Yet the pain they feel is what makes their love real, refusing to succumb to the darkness and pain and persevering regardless. Love it. But I think it can be like not necessarily like a romantic relationship. Like it could be parent and child. It could be friends. It could be extended family. I think like, kind of relationship.
I mean, before you talked about that, I had never actually taken it as potentially a romantic relationship. Like I've always seen it as a struggle between the parent and the child. But if you dig into it, there's so much more to it. Like this literally could be any kind of relationship.
Oh, absolutely. Stars and Scars said that the two lead singles, Shadow Boxer and Actual Pain, both touch on themes of internal distress. Both singles are good, but Shadow Boxer is by far my favorite.
I mean, I can't agree or disagree with them because Shadow Boxer is my second favorite song from that album. So.
Fair. Broadway World wrote about this. And it was, I think it was just, pretty like straightforward article, but I just had to mention that Broadway, because I was like, why would Broadway World write about Good Charlotte? I don't know, are we getting a Good Charlotte musical on Broadway? Because if so, I am buying front row tickets to see that, because that sounds awesome.
I've never been to the US, but if they did something like that, I just might.
Yeah.
I just might take everything that I've collected and just spend it on tickets.
I had this idea for a Good Morning Revival musical.
Ooh. That could be awesome, really.
Yeah. I feel like Good Morning Revival would work as a musical because like this album, I mean, this album could be a musical too, but this album, the songs are very like me, like, it's like a personal point of view. Good Morning Revival, it's like all of the songs are from kind of a different point of view. Like a lot of good, like Broken Hearts Parade, Break Apart Her Heart, Something Else, Where Will We Be Now? Like it's all kind of a little different in who they're sort of talking about, I think. Like I versus you versus us kind of thing. So that's why I feel like Good Morning Revival could work as a musical, because you could like have different characters sort of singing each song.
Yeah. Though visually, I think that maybe the Chronicles of Life and Death could be turned into maybe not a musical, but maybe into a movie. Because of those themes, like those songs are so connected with each other. Like every next song is so connected well to the previous.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, like, Chronicles is very connected like that.
Like, Chronicles isn't my number one favorite album necessarily, but it's definitely my favorite album to listen to front to back. Like, it's such a cool experience.
Yeah.
Always, every time.
It definitely is. Music Speaks said about Actual Pain that the new single has managed to strike a perfect balance between some of their more synth-driven pop rock songs like Dance Floor Anthem and Misery, and earlier guitar-infused and more sincere tracks like Hold On and We Believe. This type of combination of their sounds is driving the band into a new era and is sure to please both old fans as well as capture new ones.
Yes, exactly like me.
Punk News was not a fan. Punk News is never a fan, but they gave the album 2 out of 5, and they said the first 3 proper songs all aim for modern rock radio. Titles like Self-Help and Actual Pain are meant to be genuine, but they're underwritten, relying on tired cliches. And the worst part is their intentions seem good. It's the execution that's lazy. All right, to each their own, I guess.
This is such a funny review. Like, I've read it several times, and it still is just, right. I don't know, what is their problem? Like, they mention exactly what is good about this song.
Right,
like,
right.
What makes actual pain. What do they don't like
I
here?
mean, it's a person, I don't think there's any such thing as unbiased music criticism. Like, anytime you're writing about art, you're going into it with opinions, right?
Yeah.
So, Call the One said, Actual Pain is about as gentle as a punch in the gut, but songs like these are reflective of life. The world is broken and weighs down on the shoulders of every person in society, but no one is alone in facing it. GC calls their fans to keep fighting, even when they don't feel like they're making a difference.
Yeah, they're pretty much drawing a parallel between Actual Pain and Hold On, I think.
Yes, definitely. Definitely. I found a thread on Reddit about this song. There was only like 1 or 2 comments, but I just had to read this one comment because this person was not into it. A spicy meatballa said, I used to love Good Charlotte in high school, but when the first round of Whoa-Oh-Ohs kicked in, I nearly threw my phone at the wall. Okay. And then Angry Tortilla said, there's something equally depressing and creepy about old men writing songs aimed at 13-year-old girls. This band really needs to stop.
That is so stupid.
I'm like, what's creepy about it?
And why exactly 13-year-olds? Like, adults have struggles too.
Yeah. I would also say that...
And why girls necessarily?
I would also say that I think Good Charlotte is well aware that their fans are not... That, like I will say from, like, who listens to my show, it's mostly female, but not, like, overpoweringly. It tends to be, like, I want to say around 2/3 to 70% female, maybe. But depends on episode. And it seems to mostly be, like, mid-20s to early to mid-30s. So, like, kind of around my age range, right? And I think Good Charlotte kind of knows that I don't think they're aiming at 13-year-olds anymore because they know that's not necessarily the bulk of their fan base.
I don't think they ever did. I mean,
yeah,
they are aiming at a wide audience, like anyone who wants to listen to that.
Yeah. Like, I think, you and I are, 10, 11 years apart in age, and I think we both really connected with this album and this song because, like, it's not, like, an age-exclusive thing. Here.
Yeah, I started listening to Good Charlotte when I was like 16 years old, maybe slightly older, but still, I wasn't underage.
Yeah.
And still, I would have definitely started listening to it even at the age that I am now and even later.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about, we're going to read a couple YouTube comments on the live video. We got a couple on the live video. Justin Zuleta says, this is their best work since Good Morning Revival. Okay. Michael Novak says, this video is so much better than the official music video. Wow. Okay. Ratul Mitra says, I'm glad my recommendations suggested this song. Looks like I've been introduced to something great. Awesome.
That's really sweet.
Yeah. Johnny Frank said, "This is def my favorite worship band."
I'm not even sure I understand exactly what this means.
A worship band is like a religious band, like a band that makes worship music. Specifically, when people say that, it means like it generally implies like Christian. Definitely, there are Good Charlotte songs that I would say could fit into that. Like,
I mean, Prayers and the River, that comment should have been there.
Yeah, Right Where I Belong. That's definitely like Right Where I Belong is like as worship of a song as you can almost get. I wouldn't say this is like a worship song at all. But you know. On the actual music video, just a lot of people talking about how they've been a fan for years and years. Shaz Zainuddin says, Joel Madden now looks like Channing Tatum, love from Malaysia. I mean, while that's definitely a compliment to Joel, I don't know if I necessarily agree.
I mean, I don't, I mean, that's just someone's personal opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to say it's wrong, but like, I don't know if I agree. Becca Page says that I have a little boy of my own now, and the frustrations of motherhood are very real, but this video puts things in perspective. Leave it to GC to always keep me motivated and grounded.
That's really just so, I don't know, real.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't describe it in any other words other than real, but because she's just talking about what the song is about.
Yeah.
And she sees it, and just like most fans.
Yeah. Autumn Babcock says, the grown-up version of My Bloody Valentine. Wow, we definitely grew up.
I mean, I don't know how exactly this song is tied to My Bloody Valentine. Like,
yeah.
I still don't understand exactly what My Bloody Valentine is about. Like, if you look at the lyrics, they sound like a joke.
I think My Bloody Valentine, I think it's ultimately about, like, jealousy. Like, guy gets really jealous because the girl he likes is a boyfriend. So, it's definitely like an over dramatized reaction to be like, oh, I'm going to kill your boyfriend because I want you to be with me instead.
So it's kind of like tied to Keep Your Hands Off My Girl.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Because, I mean, I did have some ideas like that, but every time I look at it and look at the lyrics and be like, what were you thinking about when writing that?
Right. No, I don't. I mean, I remember going into the episode on My Bloody Valentine, and I was like, how is this conversation going to go? But I think my friend Joel Funk and we were kind of like, yeah, I think it's about jealousy. That's what we interpreted as. And kind of like an over dramatization of it.
Mm-hmm.
Lopa44 says, just saw them yesterday at Rock im Park for the very first time, and they played this live, and it was the surprise of the day. I like the live version even more than this one.
Yeah, I have seen live versions on YouTube of it, and it's such a great live songs. Like there are several live songs of Good Charlotte that are just, they sound so great live, so much better than on the official audio. I don't think that Actual Pain is one of those songs, though, but there are songs that they're greatest hits, but they don't sound well live.
Yeah, I would love to hear this song live and just see how they kind of work it, though. And just because I just love this song so much and like want to hear it live.
I think that the intro, they kind of play it in a peculiar way, as far as I saw. Like, they don't play. I've noticed that there are several guitars on the intro, and somehow they don't play some of those. Bill just doesn't play. I think he doesn't play that very first notes though I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's also like in the studio, they can record like as many guitar tracks as they want, but live, it's, you know, like All Time Low will have like a touring guitarist at some shows, at some tours, but like Good Charlotte, it's Benji and Joel. And then if they were to use like any tracks, I guess, but Good Charlotte doesn't have like an additional touring guitarist or anything, so.
Actually, I saw several performances. For example, The Voice Australia. They performed with 2 additional guitarists. I remember
Really?
that. Yes,
Really?
there's a live performance.
I've never seen them do that.
I saw a live performance of Life Can Get Much Better from 2016 when they were coming back, and they played on The Voice when the twins were still hosting it, and there were 2 other guitarists on there.
There we go. Last comment I'll read, just because I love this one, knowing, you know, your kind of story of Good Charlotte, is from Noob Guitarist, who says, never listened to you guys. I know some bangers, of course, but GX is on repeat from this morning. Album of the year for me. Love the sound and style. Awesome. Sounds like another person that found them with this album.
I mean, I could have been one of those fans that got into Good Charlotte because of Generation RX, because I got into Good Charlotte around that time.
Yeah.
But surprisingly, the album that got me into them was Youth Authority.
Okay, so yeah, because that one was like already out and everything.
Yeah. I mean, in 2019, it was just a really weird time for me. And so I started listening to Youth Authority. And for some reason, I did not like the earlier albums, and just months earlier. I don't know what was wrong with me, but months later, I was like, okay, The Young and the Hopeless. And I got into The Young and the Hopeless around the same time I got into Generation RX, and those 2 are now my favorite albums.
Wow, okay. I love that. I like hearing about what albums kind of got someone into the band, because like a lot of the people that are like my age and like found them when we were in middle school, like it's almost always The Young and the Hopeless. So because that was like the newest one that was out, so I like hearing that it was like Youth Authority that really did it for you at first.
For me, it was actually special because I was already a huge fan of Sleeping with Sirens. So
okay
when I found out that Skellum sings on Keep Swinging, I was like, I knew that Good Charlotte was going to be my favorite band immediately.
Yeah, Water Parks likes this band. All Time Low likes this band. Kellen from Sleeping with Sirens on the song. All right. Yeah.
And then I found out that they toured with the Main. And I'm getting into the Main right now. And they're such a great band. And
oh my God, yeah.
It's so fun that Good Charlotte were like one of the first big bands that got them on tour.
Yeah.
I really love that they promote young artists and make them big.
Yeah, and they do that on a very important level with the company, with Madden too, which I think is awesome. So, Daryna, as we wrap up, how has this song held up for you over time?
I mean, somehow Actual Pain, it just helped me. Like, I still have struggles, and my parents do have them, and I live with my parents. And somehow Actual Pain, when I first heard it, and as I started listening to it on repeat, and I fell for its music video, and somehow it just made my relationship with my parents and other people better, because I realized that it's okay that other people struggle too, and they get impacted by struggles of their loved ones too. So I feel like Actual Pain made me take things easier and don't pay too much attention when people just being mean to you or are hurting you, because they really don't mean to.
Yeah, and a lot of time, I mean, like, it's not to say it's okay for anyone to, like, treat other people poorly or to bully or to, like, harass anyone, but, like, a lot of people who are mean to others do it because they have they're like really struggling mentally.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Like having that kind of empathy, I guess, for others is huge. I think like I definitely like from the like at first my connection to this song was so personal, but as time went on, I've definitely just felt A, like the universal aspect, like you were just saying, but B, just like the production and how they combine, like how cool it is that they combine these like electro elements with these like really dramatic strings. And just how much I appreciate that sound.
I also would like to mention that I love, or what I love about this song, what I loved about Makeshift Love, sonically, is just how different the verses and the choruses are.
Yeah.
Because, like, the choruses are so heavy, and unlike Makeshift Love also has a heavy solo, but the intro and the pre-choruses are just light, as I've already said. Yeah. But in Actual Pain, like, the bridge is light sonically, and the verses are kind of like even the second half where they play with palm muted guitars.
Yeah.
But then the choruses just hit hard.
The choruses hit really hard.
The lyrics, which are definitely dark in the entire song, but somehow in the choruses they're even darker, and it's really cool for me.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. The contrast is like intense here. So what has Good Charlotte meant to you over the past couple of years, and how has that changed?
Good Charlotte definitely had a huge impact on me as a musician and as a person. They were the reason why I decided to make the YouTube channel, but initially it was just being able to relate to lyrics. Like, Good Charlotte somehow ended up being the most relatable band for me. Like, I've been a fan of bands, of different bands that write about things that I can relate to, but somehow Good Charlotte has so many songs, so much more songs than any other band that I can relate to. Like, I can relate to, I think, 70% of their stuff.
Yeah.
And later on, they inspired me to become serious about my music. They inspired me to make my YouTube channel, and listening to their music and working on that channel in the lockdown when everyone's going crazy because no one knows what's going to happen, and just being busy with that stuff. It's
nice to have an outlet to keep you busy.
Yeah, I mean, I've got intense studies at the university, and being able to do something else, to do something different, it's really relieving for me. So yeah, Good Charlotte impacted that because they were the ones who influenced that happening.
I love that. This has been so awesome. Do you have any last words about Actual Pain, about Good Charlotte, or about yourself?
I know that this episode will come out after their anniversary, but you know that I love tweeting about whether Good Charlotte is up to something or not. Yeah, because I want them to release songs. I'm a normal fan for that, I think.
Yeah.
And I hope they will release they will do something on their 25th anniversary.
I would love that. That would be awesome. And I guess for you, it's like a cool thing, because by the time you really became, like, they haven't put out a new album since you've really become a fan, right?
Yeah, they only put out last December.
Right.
And last December was such a big surprise for me. Like, I remember on that day, I woke up, I was going to watch Jack Baracat's live stream, like, not live stream, but his Basement Noise set.
Yeah.
And then I'm waking up, and suddenly I see that Good Charlotte put out a new song all of a sudden. Like, that was so awesome. And there are bands that put out a song for the first time in a very long time, and I listen to it, and I'm trying to get into it, but I don't feel it. But last December, it's such a great song. I immediately loved it. And, it's still one of my top songs on Spotify.
I remember it came out the same day as Jack Barrick had his Basement Noise set, because I was going over to my friend's house that evening to watch it.
Wow, that's so awesome.
Yeah, and I, like, the entire day, obviously, I'm, like, listening to the new song on repeat and like, all over Twitter. And, like, I remember getting there and we're, like, waiting for our pizza to get to her house. And I'm, like, looking on my phone, which, like, normally I don't really like to do that when I'm with other people. But I'm like, sorry, the internet is, like, blowing up. There's a new Good Charlotte song, and I'm kind of overwhelmed right now.
Oh, that's awesome.
But yeah, well, thank you so much. So I do a Generation GC and Friends Spotify playlist. So I'm going to add Actual Pain, because that's the song we're talking about. But I would also love to get a recommendation from you. So something you're listening to lately that's not Good Charlotte.
I have gotten to the main, as I've already mentioned. Like, I liked their new song Sticky. I loved All Time Lows Once in a Lifetime, obviously. And one of my first favorite bands, The Offspring, they are putting out an album, I think, in April.
Okay.
And they have a new song called Let the Bad Times Roll. I also loved it.
Awesome.
Which is very different from their original style. Like, they're generally a punk rock band, but this one is something like pop, I think. It's close to pop. But I still love it.
Well, thank you so much, Daryna. You have, I know, so I'll link your YouTube channel. So everyone, please check out her covers on YouTube. I think you're really going to enjoy what she's doing. And then if people want to, like, keep up with you online, like, where can they follow you?
You can follow me on Twitter and on Instagram. I have 2 accounts for both. Like, my personal account on Instagram and Twitter is Daryna SamX. And my channel's account is the Daryna SamX. Like,
Perfect.
I added there in, it used to be Daryna SamX Music, but I switched to that because I liked the way Billy Martin used to do.
I like it. Well, it's very, like, clean, kind of feeling, and, like, professional to say the.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's what I thought.
Yeah, I like it. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. Listeners, thank you for tuning in. Last week, we talked about 40 Ounce Dream from Youth Authority. Next week, we'll be talking about a song from Good Charlotte, the band's self-titled debut album. My name is Molly Huddleston. I've been your host. You can follow Generation GC at Generation GC Pod, P-O-D, on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can also follow me, Molly, at M Huddleston, M-H-U-D-E-L-S-O-N, on Twitter and Instagram. Please make sure to subscribe to the show or follow wherever you listen. Please rate and review on iTunes, Apple, and if you're on Facebook, please join the Generation GC Fam Facebook group. Thank you all so much for listening. Talk to you next time.